I'm in Love with the Villainess is a really great anime series that surprised me with how good it is. This series is hilarious, but it also covers topics that most series try to avoid and does so in a very mature and cool way. Never have I seen a series be mostly comedic but still handle themes in as respectable of a way as this series does. The main character Rei is gay, just like straight up. Nothing wrong about that, but still. There is a very good moment pretty early on in this series where she is talking with her friends and they get on this topic and they ask her directly. Some of the others try to defend her and skip over the topic, not really wanting to talk about it, but Rei says she doesn't really mind and says yes. That makes one of her friends, the main love interest herself, actually have a look not necessarily of disgust, but more just looking to avoid Rei from then on. But she gets told that that is prejudice for assuming Rei would just, in their own words, lust over any woman. But they do a really good job at explaining that just because you're gay doesn't necessarily mean that your mind works differently. You still have people you like and people you don't like, just like straight people do. They even talk about things like how gender doesn't really play a role in love, when in reality it does. A straight person is not going to love somebody of the same sex, just like how a gay person won't like somebody of the opposite sex. Of course, they could have friends like that, but not lovers, they are entirely different. This show does a phenomenal job at giving you a different perspective on these characters while also educating potentially ignorant people on things they may not know much about. I'm one of those people. I'm no expert on this topic in any way, shape, or form, so don't take anything I said with any level of seriousness. This is just what I got from what the show is trying to say. You can always correct me down in the comments. I am more than willing to learn more about this subject. The series does cover other heavier topics involving romance as well. Firstly, on the note that we were just talking about in the same conversation in the show, they also brought up loving someone you know you'll never be able to love back, and they also did a really good job at talking about this. When you love somebody, you want them to be happy. Of course, if they could be with you, that's a bonus, but that's not always the case, so you may go out of your way to help the person you love and the person they like get together because you know that'll make them happy. You just want them to be happy and stay by their side no matter what, even if they won't love you romantically, which I think is a very real statement that I like that they tackled. Alright, this one is going to be interesting for sure. They go in depth and talk about a lot of different topics involving romance and how people feel about each other, and that includes incest. Yes, the series does have two characters who indulge in incest. One of them was a pretty prominent character throughout the series so far. They don't defend it in any way, which I think is a good thing because if this show did, I don't think I would like this show anymore. However, even though they don't defend it, they still talk about it, and I like that they don't shy away from some of the more taboo topics like this just because people might be disgusted by it. They still feel like they need to talk about these things, which I think is really cool and makes the series feel very unique and different from most of the other series around it. We never get to see how far these characters have gone or anything like that, but the fact that they brought it up is pretty interesting. I like as well that they are still treated as people after they committed these acts by the people who care about them the most. They weren't just thrown to the side and left behind by people they once called their friends. Just because you do something stupid doesn't mean you should be abandoned by your friends and those who care about you. With that being said, I do not defend or condone any of the stuff that they did, nor do I really like any of their characters. Besides just talking about the romantic relationships between people, one of my favorite things this series discusses is having genuine friendship with people. Having friends you can rely on is always important, especially if you have some problems that you're dealing with. Having that person to lean on who you know will be there for you is a good thing. There are so many characters that have really good friendship in this series, like Rei and Misha, or even Rei and Claire. Minaria being a friend to Claire and eventually Rei is also going to be interesting as she has this really cool vibe about her that I think fits really well for the dynamic of the characters. They have a really good friendship that helps them all lean on each other and have each other's backs as well. Getting off talking about relationships, I want to talk about some of the other harder hitting stuff this comedy show talks about. They do a fairly good job at tackling loss in many different forms. Of course, they cover how death can affect someone and help them grow as a person. But they also cover losing a close friend because they had to move, or in this case of this show, they got exiled. They do a really good job at letting us see the inner emotions of the characters in these moments even without revealing their thoughts, which I think is pretty cool. Loss is not something that can be easy to talk about, and the fact that a show that mostly focuses on comedy can do so in a respectful and interesting way makes you wonder why a lot of other shows struggle to make it seem compelling or like you should care. As I've stated multiple times throughout this video, this is a comedy anime first and foremost, and let me just say, they do comedy extremely well. There are so many funny moments throughout the show that get me laughing so hard. From Rei being an unhinged lunatic towards Claire, to even the way that we see characters like the princess act around those two, it makes the show so damn funny that it is really hard not to laugh in each and every episode. There aren't really any jokes per se in the normal sense. The comedy mostly comes from Rei being a lunatic and Claire's reactions to Rei's antics, but that is really all the show needs to be truly funny. The characters in this series are really good. Rei is an amazing protagonist, she is hilarious, but she's also someone who doesn't back down in the face of a challenge, which I can respect. She's pretty damn strong as well, being able to fight some pretty capable people and being able to wield two elements, which is pretty rare in this world. Claire is a great foil to Rei. She is most definitely a tsundere, but that works really well in contrast to Rei's personality. They work together really well and have a really good friendship. Claire herself is also pretty strong. She wields fire magic pretty well and can handle herself in a fight if she needs to. Plus she's also pretty damn funny as well. The other side characters in the series are also great. I like the princes a lot. Each one of them have their own personalities and they each bring something different to the scenes they are in. Misha makes for a really good friend to Rei. She plays like the straight man character to Rei's antics, and their duo works out surprisingly well as each one of them understands each other fairly well. And then we have Lene. I liked her character at first, but then she had to be involved in fucking incest, and I no longer like her character. With that being said, Lene is a good friend and servant to Claire who works hard. She is even nice to Rei despite Rei being an idiot, which is cool. Lene gives off the typical maid vibe, which there's nothing wrong with. It worked for her character for a while. I'm in Love With the Villainess is an anime that I absolutely love this season. It has unhinged comedy, a pretty good story, and decent characters. Would I say it's the greatest anime ever? No, but I do like this anime quite a bit and have found every episode to be very enjoyable.